Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome back to another video series here. Today we're going back to Mardu Pyromancer. I got a bit of a case of the Mondays, so we're not doing a full competitive league, but we are going to do 3 competitive matches in the single queue lobbies of Magic Online. Reason being for that is I've had a bit of a rough start to the morning, bit of near accidents on the road today, just multiple near accidents, so I'm just, trying to kind of calm down, relax, enjoy the game. And I don't think a full competitive league will help with that. So we're just going to run through 3 matches, hopefully have a little bit of a chill kind of video here for you guys just to relax, enjoy the content, and feel out how the deck performs right now. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the deck in front of us. This is Mardu Pyromancer. If you're not familiar with it, essentially what we try to do is have a bunch of cheap instant sorceries, cheap discard spells, and then some very efficient threats in the form of Young Pyromancer, as well as Bedlam Reveler, which essentially is 2 mana because of all of your instant sorceries. Now, it's not always 2 mana, but ideally that's what you're trying to do with this deck. Then you're also just playing powerful cards in the Mardu colors, such as Blood Moon and Liliana of the Veil. So even though they're not instant sorceries, they still kind of are just so powerful that, it's almost free to run them because they're just so powerful. So Mardu Pyromancer had some pretty good showings over the weekend at the GPs, and I believe it got 2 or 3 copies in the GP top 8s, which is pretty great for this deck, right? Either it was a good meta call or the deck's just insanely powerful or consistent, and I think it's actually a good combination of all 3 of those things, which is why I enjoy playing it. It's just very consistent, very powerful at doing what it's trying to do, and that's really important in Modern. I think there's a lot of obviously potential for fringe strategies in Modern, but you'll notice that the strategies that make it to tier 1 are the ones that are consistent. And that's what's really important in Modern, to have consistency. And I think a card like Faithless Looting, which lets you see way more of your deck every game, obviously increases your consistency. You notice Tron has all their cyclers and their search engines to enable Tron every single game. You'll notice Burn, every single spell in Burn is basically the same. And Affinity is, even without a nut start, can still chip away and win games, right? So you either need to be very consistent or do something very powerful while also kind of not being dead when you don't draw your nut draw, right? Something similar with Hollow One too, right? They don't have to drop 2 or 3 Hollow Ones on turn 1 to win the game. They can just play 5 5s and 2 2s and 2 1s and chip in that way, and then finish you off with a couple lightning bolts, right? So definitely a lot of things to be said about how you make it to tier 1 in Modern, but I think Mardu Pyromancer clearly has a very ideal shell for that, in that it does a lot of the same things every game, and those same things are powerful and consistent, and that's really important. So if you're not familiar with the deck, hopefully that was a little rundown for you. Let's go ahead and cover the sideboard really quickly as well. Nothing too notable here. I'm still on 4 Leyline of the Void. I think that's a great way to fight against the graveyard decks or the mirror. Really important card. 3 Molten Rain, because again I hate losing to Tron, and I think they do significantly help the matchup, especially if you're on the play. And then you have an extra Collective Brutality for Burn. You have Liliana the Last Hope for the grindy matchups / the little critter matchups. You have Hazoret the Fervent as a fast clock, as well as an alternate win condition if your graveyard gets nuked or something like that by Rest in Peace. You have 2 Kumbal, because Kumbal is great against Storm. You have 2 Wear and Tear, because it's great against random artifacts and enchantments like Wear and Tear or Cranial Platings or whatever you want to deal with. And then you have Engineer Explosives, because it's just a catch-all kind of removal spell. I've been thinking about doing the 2nd Engineer Explosives. I haven't made that decision today, but just know that on my mind here, I am trying to look for ways to fit in the 2nd Engineer Explosives. Okay, so I think that covers the deck tech here. So we're going to do 3 matches in competitive lobbies, okay? So just because it's not a Modern competitive league doesn't mean that we're not going to be facing competitive matches. If for some reason I run into a deck that's not competitive or one that's not worth your time, I will obviously edit that out and not show it to you guys and skip over it, just so we have some quality content here. That's my main goal here, to have quality for you guys, okay? So thank you all for watching that deck tech, and stay tuned for the first match coming up in just a second. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the first match here with Mardu Pyromancer. Let's go ahead and keep this hand. It's pretty solid. We have turn 3 Liliana, we have Faithless Looting, plus Lingering Souls, plus a potential Fatal Push on turn 1. Looks like our opponent might be on some sort of blue deck here. Let's see, they scryed to the top with their mulligan, so it's probably pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and fire off this Looting on 1. We probably want to find some action, right? So I'm definitely discarding Souls. The question is, what else am I discarding? Fatal Push is probably pretty poor against a control deck. Terminate might be okay, depending on what our opponent does. But Fatal Push is a cheaper answer to both Snapcaster Mage and Celestial Colonnade, if that's what my opponent is doing. And I think I want to keep land drops for this matchup. So let's just go ahead and bin the Terminate. I don't think this is going to be a matchup where Terminate is particularly strong. If we can land a turn 3 Liliana here, I'm going to be pretty happy with that. So more lands, not great. Just fire off this Souls, get a threat going here. If our opponent like taps out for like a Detention Sphere or something, there's a Colonnade. So our opponent did not crack their fetch. So I'm going to go ahead and just swing out here. Going pretty fast, but hopefully you guys are okay with this pace. I think I'm going to shock it. Shock for Lily. If it gets countered, then okay, no counter spell. I think we just want to discard Mountain. I'm actually okay with this backup Lily, just in case they have like a Detention Sphere or something. We can just eat away at their hand. We could have discarded Faithless Looting, but maybe we should have just discarded Faithless Looting. Maybe that's the value pitch here. Our opponent looks like they're on some sort of Esper build, huh? So I'm going to go ahead and tick up here before we do anything. I think I'll discard the Faithless Looting now. Opponent discards a Disallow. That's got to mean that whatever's in their hand is better than a Disallow, right? Which is kind of scary. Oh, shoot. Oh, my God. I accidentally skipped through my my second main phase. I apologize for that, guys. I wonder if my opponent is shocking. Maybe they might be like Cryptic bouncing Liliana and drawing a card. So they are getting their basics here, so they know that we do play Blood Moons in the main. Utter End. Okay, well, I'm kind of glad we have this backup Lily, huh? A Teferi here would be a little scary. Yeah, I definitely wanted to flashback Looting last turn. Didn't quite work out for us, though. Here, if my opponent wants to burn some sort of spell. Oh my God, I did it again. I did it again. Oh my gosh. I just keep skipping through my second main phase. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just putting some stops here on end of combat. Draw 2 cards. Esper Charm. Yeah, that's pretty good. The thing is, I wish I just slammed Lily there, right? I don't know what I'm thinking. Now the chances of my opponent having like a Snapcaster Mage into a... Okay, well... Okay, this time we won't make the same mistake, right, guys? We'll play a little better. Lingering Souls chipping in for a little bit of damage here. Let's go ahead and lead on Inquisition. Thoughtseize. It will let us resolve this Liliana most likely. Oh, Del for X equals 3. Okay. So they're also just keeping up 2 mana there. I think we just discard this land here. They might be playing towards this like blocking with Colonnade next turn. Wow, they just discarded Cryptic Command. Interesting. What would they wanted to keep up for a black and a white, or a blue and a blue, other than... Are they like just gonna play a Teferi here maybe? Yeah, there's Teferi. If they tick up, interesting, they are ticking up. Lightning Bolt can take care of Teferi, although maybe not through a. We'll see what our opponent does here if they remove. Wow. Okay, so now I feel pretty safe on just clearing this Teferi. I'm just gonna start here, bolt it away, tick up. I kind of want to discard Lightning Bolt to keep the answer for Celestial Colonnade in hand, but it also means that if they have just a backup Teferi, alternatively I can just bolt the Colonnade after damage as well. Considering our opponent doesn't seem to be doing anything here, yeah, let's just loot away some lands. And even after like almost punting this game multiple times, we seem to be in an alright position. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and swing at my opponent here. Then I'm just going to go ahead and tick up, keep ticking away at my opponent's hand. Just the, I guess, Fatal Push if they rev up Colonnade. But if they rev up Colonnade, am I okay with that? I'm probably okay with that, right? Yeah, Bolt is just like a potential burn spell as well, just to the face. They're at 6 life. That's not irrelevant. Alright, they're discarding Fatal Push, which, again, is an answer to one of these Lingering Souls. So I wonder what they're doing here. Is it like a secure... Oh, rev for 2. Okay. Sure. This does mean the burn plan is a little less reasonable. Alright, but it looks like they didn't hit their 4th land. We could Liliana ult here. Just like Stone Rain them twice. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Sure. I'm gonna like target their disallow maybe. Yeah, okay. The issue with this is that I'm gonna separate their pile such that they won't have. Oh my god, they can disallow the Liliana trigger, of course. Of course. Let's see, how many instant sorceries do we have in the yard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sweet. So probably just wanna bolt their face. Reveler. Okay. We'll play a land out. And our opponent is pretty close to dead. They did fight pretty hard though. It'll be interesting to see how my opponent plays through their next turns here. So Faithless Looting is cheaper from the hand, so I'm gonna go ahead and fire it off here. Interesting. Let's see, maybe my opponent wants to make me discard 2 cards, huh? I'll do the same. If they have another counter spell here, yeah, alright, cool. So even through multiple punts, almost ridiculous misplays, we were able to get game 1. That's awesome. So they are Path to Exile deck. However, I do like Hazret here. I like the Collective Brutality. I actually really like Molten Rain as well. Liliana the Last Hope is pretty grindy. Don't want any of these. Kumbal is reasonable. So I don't like Terminate in this matchup. It's pretty slow. Blood Moon seems okay as one. It's pretty good against Esper, I think. Probably want to trim some number of Lightning Bolts. It's not the best card in this matchup. So here, more Hand Disruption, more threats, another grindy threat. We want these Molten Rains. Molten Rains almost like force like a Logic Knot out of our opponent. I don't think Kumbal is quite necessary. I like Dreadbore in case, again, they do play Teferi. They might play Jace as well. Engineering Explosives might be reasonable if they have Lingering Souls, but I think we're just a better Lingering Souls deck, so I'm not going to worry about that. We also have Liliana the Last Hope to fight a little bit against Lingering Souls. So here I think this is an okay configuration. Yeah, let's go ahead and run it. Run it. I'm keeping in Fatal Push because, again, they do play Celestial Colonnade. It's nice to have an answer to Colonnade in the deck. This hand seems just fantastic, right? But I'm mulliganing down to 6. On the draw here, this hand's a little less powerful, but backed up with hand disruption, this hand could be fantastic. Looks like our opponent's scryed to the top again. Another Reveler, not great. We do want to hit another land if possible. Spell Queller and Disallow, huh? Both of those are pretty good. I think I'd rather just take the Spell Queller though. I don't want my opponent to have a clock going, and we will still be able to land this young Pyromancer. Opponent drew another Colonnade, which they left on top. Interesting. So there's a young Pyromancer out. Hopefully we can run away with the game with it. Interesting. So I'm almost certain they're going to disallow my young Pyromancer if I run it out first. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Looks like they're just going to disallow this here. At least we get our 1 token in. Might have like, alright, so they just disallowed it, which does clear the way for our Molten Rain next turn. And we still, oh, they disallowed the token. Interesting. I think I'm okay just running into like a Verdict here. If my opponent has the Verdict, then they can just go ahead and get me, right? But next turn we can just run out that Molten Rain. That's a Field of Ruin. They might just want to Field of Ruin me off of white now. Sure. It also gets them another basic out of their deck in case of Blood Moon. A Spreading Seas there would have been really rough. I could cut them off of black. I think I'd rather just slow down their development of blue, though. And now we have a pretty solid board presence here. We're building towards one of these Revelers. And our opponent, again, we have our opponent on a 3-turn clock now. Looks like they just play Watergrave tapped. Interesting enough, we can actually Fatal Push one of these Elemental tokens and get 2 Elemental tokens out of the deal and also put an instant sorcery in the yard for Reveler. We might do that at the end of next turn. Just going to put some stops. Opponent does not have Colonnade mana, so I have a feeling if my opponent has Cryptic Command, they have to do it here. And that'll mean we can resolve Bedlam Reveler. Yep. So now there's an argument whether we even want to play this land out right now. I don't think we want to. Reason being is we could find an untapped source plus a plus another spell we want to cast. So not quite, and no lootings either. But let's just go ahead and play this land out. Opponent could still have a Verdict here to get back into the game, but looks like there was no Verdict, and we were able to get there against Esper Control, right? So, I would like to apologize for the few misplays in the first game. I imagine that's really frustrating to watch. So I'd really do apologize for that, but hopefully we're able to enjoy the match, and hopefully we'll not punt away some turns, maybe not the game, but not punt some turns in the second match coming up in just a second. I will see you guys soon. Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the second match here with Mardu Pyromancer. Hopefully you made it this far. Let's go ahead and say yes to the die roll because we definitely want to play first. Yeah, this hand is great, right? We have turn 1 Inquisition into turn 2 Pyromancer. I think most of those hands are like almost always a keep. It's like exactly what you want. Obviously, we want to find a Reveler. We want to find maybe a Liliana the Veil or a Blood Moon, but this is a pretty good start no matter what our opponent's doing. So no turn 0 plays for our opponent. That's a good start, right? No Leyline of Sanctities. Alright, looks like we're going to fire off this Inquisition. Whenever Magic Online decides it wants to fire it off. Looks like we're up against like Bant Company of some sort. Interesting. So this forest doesn't help them cast Meddling Mage, and we can terminate the Scavenging Ooze. I'm inclined to take the Reflector Mage, just because if they want to path... Although, Reflector Mage does come down pretty late. And again, they also can't cast it. Maybe I'm just supposed to take this Path to Exile. Yeah, let's go ahead and take Path. Well, it's tricky, right? Because we have Brutality to take Path, but there's also the argument that we won't get the opportunity to do that. Right, no turn 1 Dork for my opponent. That's a really good sign for us. That's also a pretty good draw here. I think I'm actually gonna get another Blood Crypt here. Considering my opponent already has a basic forest in hand, I'm not even sure I want to play out a Blood Moon right now. But this means that if we draw a untapped mana source, then we can go Thoughtseize plus Brutality on the Scavenging Ooze. And we can maybe Thoughtseize away the Reflector Mage. Alright, looks like they drew another mana source. Right? Yeah, because we don't know about that one. So they have one unknown card in their hand currently. Looks like they're fetch shocking here. Oh, they were able to cast... Oh, right, Meddling Mage. Sure. Right. Makes sense. Ooh, Lightning Bolts. Wow. I'm glad they didn't name Lightning Bolt. So here... Opponent has good cards. Has some really good cards. So we have a couple options. Let's go ahead and think about them, right? Before we jump into anything. Reflector Mage means that we can, keep our young Pyromancer on board no matter really what happens. Knight of the Reliquary means that they have one less big creature to go over the top with us. Selfless Spirit means that we can kill one of the creatures that they play out. And Scavenging Ooze means that we don't necessarily have to... Scavenging means they can probably play it plus eat a creature, one of the ones that we take here, which means that they're out of Brutality range. And if we use Lightning Bolt on Meddling Mage, then we're in a bit of a tricky spot. I think there's a reasonable argument for everything here. My gut says Knight of the Reliquary is just the most powerful card. I want to take that. But there's also an argument for taking the Selfless Spirit. I think I just want to take the Knight of the Reliquary, though. Throw them off their curve. Both the Meddling Mage, because we do want to probably cast our cards soon. And getting in for damage is not meaningless in this matchup at all. So now the Reliquary is just the scariest card. Even with a Terminate in hand, I'm just really more inclined to terminate one of the other cards. Because there's not even a guarantee that we'll be able to terminate that Knight. So this is why I prefer this play. And if they want a Reflector Mage next turn, it'll be annoying, but not the end of the world. We'll be able to replay it eventually. Yeah, that's fine. I think we just want to... Wow, that's a lot of young Pyromancers in the face of a Reflector Mage. Now I feel kind of silly. Can we survive off of 2 lands for this game? I don't think so. I think just keeping the removal spells is our best option. So this does mean we get a little bit out-tempoed here, but if we draw an untapped land, we might be in a good spot. Also, if our opponent draws an untapped land, they might be in a good spot too. Alright, there's a Birds of Paradise. I wonder if they run out the Selfless Spirit first. Oh, Wall of Roots. Interesting. Interesting. I'm not blocking here. No interest in that at all. Wow, the other young Pyromancer, sure. So over a sequence of 2 turns, we will be able to clear both the Selfless Spirit and the Scavenging Ooze. Hopefully the Scavenging Ooze doesn't just mess with us too soon before we can clear it. Hopefully we can like draw a land, that way we can double spell and clear it in 1 turn cycle. Because we can Brutality away the Selfless Spirit, and then on their turn, after they probably sack the Selfless Spirit, we can terminate the Scavenging Ooze. But it is kind of dependent on them not like drawing another better threat this turn. Because if we just fall too far behind in terms of developing a board of threats, and they start developing their threats and we can't answer them fast enough, then we're going to be in a really rough spot. Okay, so them going for their blue mana here is kind of scary. Okay, there's a Selfless Spirit. Alright, there's a Scavenging Ooze. So they're leaving up 2 green sources to eat with Skoos. Might even have a Path to Exile here. Oh, they're just going to go... Oh, they're going to eat the Faithless Looting right now. Sure. So what I really want to see here is an untapped land. Something like a fetch would be great. Thoughtseize. There's no guarantee this even gets anything, but our opponent did not play anything last turn. I mean, play a land last turn. So we'll see what they're sitting on here. I don't think they can play anything off of Wall of Roots. Chord of Calling. That's a great pickup here. Here we'll clear. Again, they can grow their Skoos, so there's no point in killing it. No point in trying to kill it. And now we can do a little bit of chumping, right? Right. I guess Selfless Spirit should have let me know, especially Wall of Roots should have let me know this is some sort of Chord of Calling list. Alright. Skoos can grow quite large, can eat our graveyard pretty well. Hopefully they just, miss on draws for 1 turn. And we could, yeah, alright, sweet. So Razor vs. Thicket's great for us to see. If we can land another Pyromancer, then we'll be rolling in gasoline. Looks like they're just probably going to eat a bunch of stuff now, yeah. We're definitely going to chump here. No need to take 5 in any way, shape, or form. So we just needed our opponent to whiff on 1 draw, and then we could kind of deploy our threats in a reasonable way. As it stands, I'm going to go ahead and just start clearing the board here. My opponent wants to use up their remaining green mana to eat the instant sorceries out of my yard. That's probably a good idea. Thankfully, we have a lot of cheap ones. They probably don't want to use the Wall of Roots because then it's not a good blocker for these elementals. But I'm actually just going to go ahead and get aggressive now. I'm going to need to start turning the corner soon. Alright. I'm going to play this young Pyromancer out pre-combat in case we need to use this Lightning Bolt Spell Queller. Mystic Snake. That is spicy. Wow. That's pretty sweet. Again, I don't want them to trade with my Pyromancer. And this means they're dead next turn. If they want to take 6 here, that means we have, again, they have 2 blockers, and I guess that's only 5 damage. Ooh, Can we cast that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we can cast that. Question: do we want to cast that pre or post combat? I think I want to do it post combat actually. It does mean like a spell queller kind of gets us a bit better here, but I think if they have like another Mystic Snake here, oh, Restoration Angel. I guess that's a pretty bad. That's pretty bad for us. I wonder if they yeah, they probably play All right. Okay, so they go to 1. Reveler for 2. Best card in the deck. Hit a Lightning Bolt 100% here, right? No Lightning Bolt. Let's go ahead and Faithless Looting. So I think Chord of Calling is still a good, a lethal draw from them. Okay. And our opponent's dead. Fantastic. So our opponent looks like they're Bant Chord, which is weird. You usually play red for Kiki. I imagine they have Kiki, but they may just not have it in their mana base, right? Brutality's pretty good against my opponent. Holding on the last up, is also pretty good. Engineer Explosives is pretty good as well. There's an argument for Hazard, just an extra threat, just beats through, especially through like Rest in Peace and things like that. I don't think this is a Multi-Rain matchup, and it's not a Kumbal matchup. I think we can probably cut 1 Blood Moon on the draw. Definitely want like most of these here. So I'm pretty hesitant on like what to bring in and what to cut. Maybe, no, I think we want all of our like Inquisitions and stuff on the draw. Maybe we just don't need Hazard for this matchup, but we definitely want these two. So the question is, like, something is worse here. I think with all their mana dorks on the draw, Blood Moon's just not good enough. Liliana also seems hard to cut, especially when they want to like grow their board before they Chord of Calling. So we might be able to even just nab stuff with that. The hard removal spells are really important, so we definitely want to keep those. Maybe we just want to cut one. No, Inquisition is just so good. So what do we cut? Do we cut a K command? Do we cut a Lily? Maybe we cut a Lily because they have a bunch of mana dorks and Lily's not the greatest. Yeah, I actually like that. The rest of our spells are more consistent in doing what they do, and Lily in this matchup doesn't do what we want her to do consistently. Wow, this is a very hateful hand, but I'm gonna keep it. We'll draw into something, right? Alright, we don't have a removal spell for that on turn 1, but we can Inquisition. We can Inquisition our opponent a bunch. Whoops, that's the Thoughtseize. Wow, okay. So I think we have to take the Scavenging Ooze here. Just because it grows out of control if we don't. Our opponent has quite an interesting deck. Dauntless Bodyguard is a pretty good Chord target, right? Okay, opponent drawing a bunch of mana dorks. Alright, they're not deploying. Oh, sure. I guess that does deal me damage, right? I think we want to just take the opportunity here to use up these discard spells while they're useful. And so, yeah, we might take 1 damage in the air from, like, Noble Hierarch beats. Alright, Field of Ruin, sure. They can crack Horizon Canopy, which is pretty good, because they're still obviously untapping with 4 mana here. Is there an argument for just, like, firing off one of these brutalities on... Ooh. Interesting. If they drew Chord... Like, what's the one card they don't play here? I guess they could have a land. But I want to get a Chord of Calling out of their hand if possible. Alright, looks like it's just a land. But at least our opponent doesn't have a clock. My opponent wants a Field of Ruin me here. Yeah, I'm actually okay with that because then that frees up my Sacred Foundry. It also untaps one of my lands, which is not relevant right now, but it also means their Razor Verge Thicket comes into play. The fact that they cracked Horizon Canopy means their Thicket came into play untapped. I don't know if that's relevant, but it's kind of cool. Here we'll get Sacred Foundry in case we draw Lingering Souls. We want to be able to hardcast it. Bedlam Reveler, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in the yard. So maybe we just want to hold up K-Command here. Because if we draw land, we'll be able to Brutality plus. Alright. Nothing from my opponent here is always a good sign. Another land. Yeah, I think I'm just going to fire off this Culligan's Command, especially because we're on the... So I'm going to make him discard, kill one of the birds. Killing one of the birds is a bit more relevant here than dealing them 2 damage to the face. Is this with the turn that... Spellstutter Sprite? What? That's so weird. Man, my opponent is quite a sweet, like, Cocoa Brew, or Chord of Calling Brew here. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kind of just want to kill the bird. Is that greedy? I don't think that's greedy. What are the chances my opponent draws Mystic Snake next turn? Famous last words. Alright, there's a blue source. But next turn we can Inquisition, maybe even like rip a Path to Exile. Ooh. 1, 2, 3. I think Inquisition is just better here. It also lets me... oh my god. Oh, but they don't have double blue! Oh my god. We're obviously amazing players here. Mana screwing our opponent. Oh, no double blue. We do get bashed in the air for 1 here. Alright, Thoughtseize is sweet. I want to do that pre-combat because of prowess. Restoration Angel here, targeting that. We'll go ahead and Fatal Push that in response. Now we can Thoughtseize away that Mystic Snake. Bash in for 5 here. Our opponent's left with a Restoration Angel, but if they want to race, they don't know that we have these Lingering Souls here. Now that means if my opponent like top decks a fetch, like it's not the end of the world for us because they don't have that Mystic Snake anymore. Our opponent does want to race. I guess like, okay, Field of Ruin. Nice. Double white is actually... I think we'll just get a mountain here. I think it's probably an island out of their deck. Yeah. I think it's just useful to get this Lingering Souls out here. Because it also means that next turn I can double spell with Young Pyromancer plus Lingering Souls. And I think my opponent's going to be in a position soon where they can't like keep attacking with Restoration Angel. Wow, okay, they're going to keep attacking with Restoration Angel. Sure. Wow. I'm not sure my opponent has any outs now, but I don't know their deck, so... Yeah, no red mana. I guess even Chord of Calling wouldn't do it, right? They don't have a board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. X equals 4 Chord of Calling. Maybe they have some sort of life gain creature. Okay. They're not conceding. I wonder if they're attacking. They're not attacking. So what are they doing? I think we'll just, how greedy would it be to swing with everything? If they have Obstinate Baloth and they block the Reveler, block here, they gain 4 and only take 5. That's actually like not. Oh, but if they have Obstinate Baloth, they can't. They can't block with Restoration Angel off of Chord of Calling. So I think this is just a lethal attack. Like, I guess they could have Settle the Wreckage here. I don't think it's worth playing around Settle the Wreckage at this spot. I think it's like I'm better off like maybe playing around a Kitchen Finks. That is something I can play around with this attack all, and I think that's far more reasonable than Settle the Wreckage out of my opponent here. Although I could get punished. There's definitely ways I could get punished. The thing is, I still have this Young Pyromancer post-combat, which means they can't even attack with Restoration Angel, which just gives us more time, right? So yeah, Chord for 3, which is what we talked about. They could get like a Kitchen Finks here, but that wouldn't be enough, right? They would gain 2. They'd only have 2 blockers. They block the 2 biggest ones. They take 5. So I'm guessing they're looking into their deck to see if there's something they can grab here. I guess, what's the card? Like, is it Staticaster or, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it Staticaster would actually be really good here, now that I think about it. But the question is, are they playing a card like that in their deck? If they have Kiki-Chord, then they're probably also playing Is it Staticaster. They could have, Orzhov Pontiff if they came prepared for this matchup today. So yeah, my opponent's not out of it here. My opponent's definitely not out of it. Spike Feeder, huh? I guess that gains them enough life. Yeah. I guess they yeah, and they chump the Reveler and they gain. Okay, sure. Opponent goes up to 4. Goes up to 6. They take 5. All right, now we know they don't have a Staticaster in their deck. So I'm just going to go play this Young Pyromancer out. Now our opponent should be really dead here, right? I don't think they have many draws that can save them. Like a Reflector Mage doesn't do it. They don't have Kiki-Chord. I think our opponent conceded. There we go. So there we go. That's the second match there against Chord or Kiki-Chord, I guess. Hope you enjoyed it. No punts that time around. And stay tuned for the third match coming up in just a second. I'll see you guys soon. Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to the third match here with Mardu Pyromancer. Our hand is a little slow, but pretty good, right? We have a Looting on 1. We have Young Pyromancer on 2. We have hopefully a Reveler down the road. We have both of the red mana for it. Let's see what our opponent is doing with their mulligan here. So they mulligan to 6. They kept their hand. And we'll find out if they scry to the top or the bottom, which might give us some information if we draw something like an Inquisition or a Lightning Bolt or something like that. So they scry to the bottom. Be interesting to see what my opponent does from this position here. So my opponent could just be tanking randomly. However, usually I find that the decks are more interactive. Never mind. I'm going to go ahead and take back everything I just said. It looks like we're up against some sort of Ponza deck. Most likely. Red. So yeah, it looks like we're up against Ponza here. I think I want to go ahead and just looting on 1 here. More lootings. Probably want to discard that and discard 1 Reveler. If we get Stone Rain next turn, then I'm, glad that we have this many lands. But if we get Blood Moon this turn, then we're okay under a Blood Moon. We're not great. but we're okay. Our opponent, okay, it looks like they hit their second land, which is really important for Ponza. And they might have something like a Molten Rain here, or a Blood Moon. Let's see. Oh, another Utopia Sprawl. I guess that still lets them play a 3-mana hate spell this turn. Them naming green kind of feels like they're playing a Blood Moon this turn. Yeah, especially because they're... I mean... Oh, Tireless Tracker. Oh my god, that lines up really well with what we have going on. I think we just cast it with one mode. Interesting. So, two things. Our opponent could just have a better curve out next turn, so they wanted to play that out. They might not have a land to even use off of it, or they just have a second one. Either one is possible. Alright, looks like they're playing a Birds of Paradise here, and an Arbor Elf. That's a lot of stuff. The reason I didn't escalate it is because we didn't have like a value pitch, really. I guess we could have pitched the extra Reveler in this matchup. That does make a little bit of sense. Is it even good to play like Young Pyromancer here? Guess so. Alright, looks like our opponent is F6'd. Alright. Hopefully we don't get Blood Mooned. I actually like actively don't want to get Blood Mooned. Actual factual Blood Moon. Alright, there goes our black mana. Does my opponent want to attack? Yeah, I'll trade 2 damage. You want to trade 2 damage? Happily. Happily. We're definitely gonna draw. Well, so I don't really. Well, it's tough. It's tough. I'm guaranteed a Reveler next turn if I just play my lands out. So I think I'd rather do that and keep the looting in my yard for post Reveler. Now, I'm not guaranteed a Reveler if my opponent blows up a land, but if my opponent blows up a land, it's not the end of the world. And my opponent has all the mana in the world over there, so I'm really happy we were able to trade for Young Pyromancer. Interesting. I don't think it's worth waiting on. It might be. I guess we have a little bit of time here. There's no reason to... I guess actually... Hold on. Yeah. We have a decent line here. Play the Peasy. Flashback looting. We still have 2 in the yard, which means if we keep one of these lands... Alright. That Blood Moon's not going anywhere, so there's no reason to really like worry about which lands we do or do not keep. Alright. An Inferno Titan here would be like the nuts. Uh-oh. Okay, Nissa. Nissa's not the nuts. They could downtick her right away. Makes for some good blockers. Yeah, interesting line from my opponent. It means that if I want to kill the Nissa, I probably have to send. Yeah, I have to send one of these Young Pyromancers in. Okay. Maybe I don't. Right? Maybe I don't. So now, unless they drew a Lightning Bolt. No, actually, we can play around. Well, I'd rather not. I mean, maybe this is like loose. I don't know. They have been holding on to a card for quite a while, but if they had Lightning Bolt, they would have bolted probably the Young Pyromancer. Alright, so we got that off the board. So now we can still cast Reveler post-combat here, which is just the nuts. Right. There goes our Ancestral Recall. We got plenty of lands. Don't care about Blood Moon. We still have actually another Faithless Looting in the yard. I totally forgot about that. Which means that we can bin away black spells, such as Inquisition. Dig towards our basic swamp a little more with that Faithless Looting in the yard. And our opponent concedes. Alright, that's game 1 against Ponza. In the books. In the books. In this matchup, I like EE. I like Wear and Tear. It's an answer to Utopia Sprawl on turn 1. Molten Rain, oddly enough, works out pretty well. Hazoret is great if you're top decking or under a Blood Moon. Liliana the Last Hope actually is not the worst card in the world. Here we want to consider what we want to cut. So we want to cut inefficient removal, like Collective Brutality. We don't want to cut efficient removal like Dreadborn Terminate, which helps us kill things like Tireless Tracker. We definitely want to cut our Blood Moons in this matchup. Definitely not a Blood Moon matchup. And we could even consider cutting a Kolaghan's Command, because a lot of their creatures are out of Kolaghan's Command range, and we just want to maybe trim some of our black spells on top. So I like Hazoret coming in here, first and foremost. I like EE a lot, and I like Molten Rains. It kills Utopia Sprawled lands, and then I like Liliana, the Last Hope. Question is Wear Tear worth it? They'll probably have a bit less, like Blood Moon's not that good against us, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, so maybe like Wear Tear is fine as like a one of over maybe like a Liliana of the Veil, but Liliana of the Veil works so well going at my opponent, like just chipping away at my opponent's hand. And I think EE is just more versatile. Maybe we want like a Wear Tear over one of the Molten Rains. They play a similar role, but it's a little slower. Yeah, I'll keep in one Wear Tear, just in case. My opponent could also have weird stuff like Torpor Orb or other, just like, heck, they could even be splashing white for like Rest in Peace. Like, you never know with these Ponza decks, right? This hand is actually quite good. It's a little bit greedy, but we have a lot of things we need in this matchup. We have hand disruption and we have cheap removal. So I think we'll have time to hopefully loot into more lands. Birds of Paradise, great. So we'll definitely fetch up a Blood Crypt here. And the question is, do we want to push or bolt the bird? I think we want to bolt the bird in the case that my opponent plays things like Scavenging Ooze. It also means that we can use up our red spells. I guess, I don't know. Actually, there might actually have been an argument for using up our black mana more efficiently. Our opponent is shocking here. Oh, no shock. They have another dork. No, not another dork. We have another land. We don't have another land. So now we have to think, okay, is there a land in the top 2 cards of our deck? If there's not, we're in a really rough spot. So I think I'm gonna get punished pretty hard here. Yeah, I'm gonna get like Molten Rain now. I guess we have 2 bolts here in case our opponent just like goes Tireless Tracker. Not the end of the world. Opponent has nothing. Opponent has nothing. And we're gonna top deck land. Nope. Let's go ahead and Thoughtseize. Holy crap. I think we just want to probably take this Bloodbraid Elf, right? We could take one of the Tireless Trackers too. Maybe that's just better. Yeah, let's just take a Tireless Tracker. I'm not too afraid of Blood Moon again. What, a single fetch and just like Blood Moon doesn't do anything. Oh. Maybe that was an argument to take something big with the other spells. Now maybe we have the luxury of taking the Blood Moon. I think we do. Again, we do want to be able to cast this Liliana eventually, especially with our opponents sitting on a bunch of big fat threats in their hand. Alright, well. Let's play this game, opponent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a land. The question is, do they want to run out their tireless tracker here? Because I will absolutely bolt it. 100%. It's dead. All right, not getting a second red source means Molten Rain's kind of out of the equation a little bit. Oh my god. Well, if that's the one card they drew in that one turn, that's really rough. What are the chances? We're 16 cards into our deck. We've seen one land. I mean, I guess Marsh Flats fetched, thinned our deck a little bit. Wow, we even have a Blood Moon here. All right. Right on time. All right, well, if they run out their tireless tracker here, we can at least bolt it. Come on, no land. All right, as soon as I get priority, bam, just firing it off. It's almost like the game is saying, you're close to getting back into it, but you're just not. You're not quite there. And there's the fourth land. We could have just had this game if we drawn a second land at any point before turn 9. Yeah, and I think now we're. I mean, I guess we could draw like a swamp, and we could you could cast Thoughtseize. We could maybe rip out our opponent's like Thragtusk or Inferno Titan. Well, I guess we can play it out just a little bit longer. I guess because like if they just jam Inferno Titan here. All right. I'm gonna try to avoid tilting here. All right, Swamp is still a live draw. We know our opponent's sitting on a bunch of gas though, so. All right, Inferno Titan means that this Dreadboard could find a target. And them running out this Inferno Titan right now means that this young Pyromancer might actually be able to grind us back into this game if we draw a basic Swamp right here. Basic Mountain is not going to do it. I'm going to pack it up. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, we had so many turns there, right? So many turns to do a lot of different possible things, and we just didn't draw anything. Okay, well, that's fine. That is fine. Wear Tear, considering it once more. Wear Tear, incentivizes us to get a Sacred Foundry, which just might be a bad thing to do in this matchup. This hand seems pretty solid. We have an answer for a Dork. We have an answer for Utopia Sprawled lands. There's Utopia Sprawl, and there's also an Arbor Elf. And double Blood Braid. Interesting. I think I'm actually going to take one of the Blood Braid Elves here. My reasoning here is that next turn I'm going to probably terminate the Arbor Elf and then Molten Rain whatever land they try to Utopia Sprawl. They could Utopia Sprawl here. I feel like that's incorrect though. I guess it depends on what they drew. If they drew a 3-drop, I guess 3-drop does punish us a little bit, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe in this matchup it's correct because you just know your Arbor Elf is going to die and you'd rather have the mana ramp. Interesting. Do we want to hold up? I don't think so. I think we're better off. Yeah, so they drew the Blood Moon. Question is, do we even want it? We probably do. We have the Lingering Souls in hand, but we could also just stifle their mana development. Yeah, actually, part of me just really doesn't care about Blood Moon. It looks like they drew a Windswept Heath. It's good to know. Let's go ahead and get a basic swamp here. So our opponent doesn't know that we're lining up a 2-for-1 here. And then we have the Terminate for the other, wow, we even just drew another. Another basic swamp. The issue is, of course, we don't have a clock. But we're a deck that can easily find a clock. We can terminate this Arbor Elf, put our opponent kind of... I assumed they were going to play the Stomping Ground this turn, but yeah, there we go. So there's an Arbor Elf, which we will terminate. So Young Pyromancer would be a great draw here. Lingering Souls, not great. Let's go ahead and terminate that. We'll play another Swamp out. If we can find a Faithless Looting now, then these Lingering Souls would obviously be good. If our opponent can just miss some land drops for a bit, well, it's not going to happen. I'm playing out these lands because it does mean we can hardcast a Reveler. So maybe I was supposed to take the Blood Moon and then just be able to cast these Lingering Souls. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's correct. Yeah, well, it looks like my opponent just ripped lands into lands into lands. Okay. Birds of Paradise is a pretty poor hit here off of Bloodbraid, so I'm happy to see that. It is a mana source though, which means that if they're sitting on a big spell in their hand, it does mean they are a little closer to that, right? Let's go ahead and take this 3 damage here. Young Pyromancer. I guess I play it out, right? It's a card. It does stuff. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so Reveler would cost 4 in this spot. Another Bloodbraid Elf. Jeez, we might just be forced to chump block with this Young Pyromancer here. Yeah, I'm definitely inclined to chump. I don't think it's reasonable for us to take 6 here. Lightning Bolt. Well, we'll just bolt the Bloodbraid Elf probably. Am I going to just draw like running Bloodbraid Elves here? Ragtusk. Sure. I guess we could have hit the bird, stifle their mana development, but that just seems so loose, right? You can just see the frustration on my face, can't you? So interesting. If we'd kept around the Young Pyromancer for 1 turn, we'd actually save life. Alright, another Blood Moon. Again, like literally a Faithless Looting gets us back into this game. A single looting just completely turns the tide of the game. I'm not gonna block here. I'm just gonna say sure, I'm dead to Bolt. But I mean, if they have Bolt, they probably Bolt the Pyromancer. Because if I do draw Faithless Looting, that means it's just more blockers for Thragtusk. Alright, that's a Faithless Looting. Someone has a stop on my draw step. Why do they have a rude? Alright, we're dead to an Inferno Titan now, which is kind of scary, but at least we have a bit more of a board presence here. I don't think it's reasonable to fire off Inquisition here. I think we just want to start developing our board. I guess like a Stormbreath Dragon also kills us. I'm gonna keep the land in hand here. Suddenly we have 7 power on board and like infinite chump blockers. Now if my opponent draws like the land destruction half of their deck, then I'm gonna be in a really good spot. But right now we're just trying to dodge Stormbreath Dragon, Inferno Titan. I guess Primal Command, if my opponent is playing any Primal Commands, that would also do it. That would find them one of their pieces. And then we can't even Thoughtseize it away. Alright, our opponent's going after our black sources. Interesting, they're still attacking with Thragtusk. That seems sketchy, but I guess that's fine. This Blood Moon, it's almost helping us, right? Yeah, we don't want Thoughtseize. Let's go ahead and start with Faithless Looting here. Bin that. Bin that. Play a land. Cast the Lingering Souls from the yard. And swing. So now we don't have any more gas left. Right? We're out of gas in the tank. But we could next turn we could use K-Command to get back another young Pyromancer. Interesting, they're blocking with the bird. So that means they're either sitting on another land just as discard fodder for K-Command, or, alright, never mind. They could still be holding on to a land though, but, oh, no, they're going too fast. They're playing their cards too fast. No, they're tapping their birds, no. Alright, Tireless Tracker. Okay, maybe, they could still, yeah, they could still be holding on to a land, sure. Alright. Yeah, that is pretty good for my opponent's side of the board here. I have to imagine my opponent's just going to stop attacking, though. They could just keep trucking in, though. They could. Yeah. Another land is not great. What I'm going to do here, though, is attack with 6 spirits and 2 elementals. If they want to block one of them, that means that Kolaghan's Command gets it. Right. But this also means that it puts them dead in... Interesting. So, K-Command here might actually just be better. Denies them 1 extra draw step. If they ripped like the Inferno Titan, they ripped a Bloodbraid Elf. Wow. Okay. So now, even though we cut it a bit close, we should have lethal. They could top deck exactly Inferno Titan here, which means maybe we should have gone after one of the birds. Although with a land, yeah, they have exactly 6 here, so maybe we were supposed to go after. All right, our opponent concedes. Wow. Yeah, that was a stressful game. Not gonna lie, guys. So much for powering down. So I feel a little bit bad about the misplays from the first match in terms of like skipping through my second main phases. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys another match on the house. So a fourth and final match with Mardu Pyromancer coming up in just a second. Alright guys, welcome back to the fourth, and I promise you final match here with Mardu Pyromancer. Looks like we lost a die roll here, but that's okay. Our hand is not great. On the draw, this is pretty risky, right? Especially because when we have a red source, so like if this was a blood crypt, maybe I'd have 2 pieces of interaction. I'm on the draw, I might draw land. As it stands though, I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this hand. This is a much more respectable keep. Inquisition might be good against my opponent, might not be, but I think I'm actually going to keep that piece of interaction. We have a removal spell as well. Ooh, basic planes for my opponent. What could that mean? Basic planes also means his Blood Moon's a bit worse, but they could be like an Eldrazi, like Mono White Death and Taxes, Eldrazi type deck, where Blood Moon is not the worst. Oh, wow, blue-white control. Interesting. I think we just take the Gideon of the Trials here. Wow, our opponent kept that hand. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty bad hand in my opinion, but looks like they have not drawn a land. So if we can hit another land drop here, wow. Faithful Suiting seems fantastic. I'm probably gonna fetch a basic swamp anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this right now. Sweet, sweet. Everything is lining up perfect here. So in the case that we draw another basic swamp, I'm gonna maybe want to be able to cast a Liliana of the Veil next turn instead of Blood Moon. Opt, huh? I probably want to take this Detention Sphere. It's the most like reasonably castable card, especially if they hit a blue source like right now. But I'm like, oh my god, of course. That's so frustrating. We could just like play Liliana and just go to town on my opponent's hand. It does mean they have an opportunity to resolve this Jace though. My opponent just missed on lands like for 1 turn. Go ahead and bin this Fatal Push. Okay. I imagine my opponent gets like an island here. Oh, they get a Hallowed Fountain. That's so good for me. On a Field of Ruin right now? Sure. I guess that gets them their basic island anyways. I guess I should have considered that maybe Blood Moon was just a better card this turn. Let's see how my opponent scries to the top. That means they're definitely drawing a land here, which is tough for us. But Jace Architect is actually really good against... Interesting. I have to imagine they kept the land on top. Okay, Detention Sphere is a card. They discarded a path. Here, let's just slam this Blood Moon. Hopefully keep them off of casting Jace anytime soon. They were able to find their island, so they have island planes. That means they can even like Snapcaster Mage, path their own Snapcaster Mage from this position here. But this keeps them off a lot of the stuff in their deck. Wow, Young Pyromancer. Knowing they have a Path to Exile in hand, I think I'd rather just Faithful Looting right now. Both of those are really good cards. I think I want to discard the Looting and the... Oh, man, all these cards are so good. I definitely don't want the Pyromancer. Maybe that's just what I want to discard. I don't know. I feel like I want to keep Bedlam Reveler in my hand in the case... Wow, they had it. They had exactly what I was talking about. Yep. That's a really good sequence of draws for my opponent. They get the other island. They get Jace now. I wonder what they do with it though. They just go down immediately. This is awkward if they hit another island. But looks like they took the Cryptics into their hand. I could just resolve Bedlam Reveler here, but how good is Reveler actually, though? think I'd just rather keep going upstairs. All right, Reveler costs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so one more red source. All right, so that's not an actual blue source, so I'm okay with that. Looks like Jace is going up. Makes sense. Interesting. So we could just discard this Thoughtseize. Do we have another? We do have another Faithless Looting. I think I want to do that first. It's another Reveler. That's a Souls. And now I think I'll just discard this Thoughtseize. Hopefully my opponent does not have a Teferi in hand, although the fact that they played Search for Scanta could mean that they do. But I feel like, oh wait, no, I think I know their hand, right? It's double Cryptic Path to Exile. And that hand is not very good in this position. Although if they find another island off of like Jace right now, we could be in a bit of trouble. But this Liliana is ticking up. Opponent discarded a Flooded Strand off the top of their deck. They're going up with Jace still. I guess putting it out of bolt range. Sacred Foundry is a pretty good draw here. I think I will do that. Ooh, Dreadbore is really nice. Wonder what they discard here. Discarded one of the Cryptic commands. Makes sense. So playing Lingering Souls kind of incentivizes my opponent to uptick the Jace, which then means we can Dreadbore it without my opponent getting any value. This Liliana is also just threatening an ultimate. Yeah, I guess they already have a path. I mean, they're going to take the... Yeah, I think this pile is better. In the case that they do... Right, I think I know the whole contents of their hand except one card. They have Double Path, a Cryptic, something else. Another Reveler is pretty insane. If we might not have to Dreadbore here. If we just send everything at Jace, it means Path to Exile doesn't save it. But maybe they know that already. But I'd rather get Jace off the board before I Liliana ultimate here. It'll make it easier to make piles. Interesting. They have a... Oh, they're just floating mana. Oh, let me exit that out here. So I think I cut them off of blue. Right, this would get me my Liliana back. Yeah, just separate the colors. I think this is a pretty fine pile. Yep, we get another Liliana back here. And we can just... I don't think my opponent has like a Logic Knot. I don't think that's reasonable. Oh, definitely don't want to do that. Maybe I... No, definitely don't want to do that either. Maybe I'm just supposed to tick up, discard the Dreadbore, play another Reveler. Oh, did we bin all of our mountains? That's rough. Our opponent could still hit lands for their Cryptic Command. Could hit an island. Could do a lot of things. Game's not over, but that Liliana ult with another Liliana going seems pretty bad for my opponent. Even like a Jace here doesn't do anything. Alright, looks like we scooped up that game there. This is definitely a matchup where you want your Blood Moons, so I'm not going to cut those. Liliana the Last Hope is good at grinding, kind of, but they have purges. She doesn't apply pressure. I like Molten Rain against control decks in general, especially because they might not want to bring in Negate against us here. I like the Collective Brutality. Kumbal doesn't seem all that great. Hazoret is an extra threat, so we could consider that. And Wear Tear hits Detention Sphere as well as Search for Ascanthus, so I can buy bringing in like one of these. There's also an argument for Engineer Explosives because they have Spreading Seas in their deck. So on the, I think I cut Terminate here. Cut 2 Lightning Bolts. I think I definitely want this Collective Brutality. I definitely want this Hazoret, especially because they play Rest in Peace. You know, now that I'm reminding myself, yeah, they play Rest in Peace as well. So let's bring in EE. Maybe I'm just supposed to cut it. Like, I don't know. They have like Teferi. They have Jace. It seems pretty risky to cut everything. But with the idea of Planeswalkers could just be a good angle of attack though against like sweeper effects. Blood Moon's pretty good. Yeah, maybe I'm just supposed to cut all the Lightning Bolts and bring in the Wear Tear and just play that kind of game. I mean, I feel a little bit soft to what my opponent might be doing, but and Fatal Push is here for Celestial Colonnade. Although maybe I can just do like 1 push, 1 bolt, split. I don't know if that's good. We'll try it. We'll try it. Bolt is more proactive, but Fatal Push is good in corner cases. Yeah, this hand seems perfectly reasonable. Hand Disruption, Faithless Looting, Hazoret. Basic Island. My opponent's like, I'm not getting Blood Moon this game. Sure, sure. Opt. So they could be on the Miracles list, right? Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. Gideon of the Trials, Negate, Search for Ascanta. Interesting. Search for Ascanta is the scariest card, I think, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. Negate is pretty good too, but we'll see how my opponent decides to use that Negate. All right, I kind of wanted to bait that out. Oh, they drew another Negate. I guess that's why they wanted to do it. I think we'll just take Gideon of the Trials. Interesting. We'll see if they want to like field me now. We can always play that next turn, though. The question is, do we want a Faithless Looting here? I think there's an argument for... I mean, it makes Reveler kind of a bit far away. But instead of just, like, running out... like an EE on 0 or something, I'd rather... Another Looting in the yard. You could even discard the Reveler. I don't think that's too unreasonable. Because we have K-Command to get it back. Yeah, let's go ahead and... I mean, they do have Negate, though. Maybe that's an argument to discard the K-Command, but we can, like, play around Negate. Just go get another mountain here. Oh, this whole time I'm, like, playing towards, like, Hazoret. They have a Path to Exile in hand. Awkward. Alright, they did not hit the land for it, though. For the Gideon. Collective Brutality is not the worst card in the world. I think I want to use my K-Command here. The more turns I give my opponent, the worse my position gets. But I really want to get that negate out of their hand so that I can rip. They're going to play discards a card. Oh, wow. They just let that happen? They have a negate in hand, but they let that happen? Interesting, opponent. Well, we could just play the Hazret, get it pathed. How bad would that be? That might be kind of loose. But I'm doing it. Let's get another swamp here. Opponent used up that Path to Exile. Still did not find the next land drop, so that's good for us. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have 5 in the yard. Yeah, we'll have a good turn set up here. What a troll deck. Not sure what you mean, opponent, but okay. Interesting. Interesting. I kind of like getting the most value possible out of my young Pyromancer. Cast with 2 modes. Target opponent reveals their hand. Target creature or target opponent. Oh, but we know they have negate in hand, so actually I'm not gonna do that. That's asking to get 2 for 1 for no reason, because they could draw a counterspell to counter this Bedlam Reveler. Wow, interesting. So they're going pretty all in on this. Yep, that gets negated. I guess there's no reason to play this EE out yet, because we don't know what we want to even set it on, if we want to set it on anything else. Oh, maybe my opponent was talking about their own deck. Their own deck was a troll. Yeah, for sure. So EE on 0 means that it gets the, well, this just makes life really easy. If they want to Path to Exile Elemental, I'm like more than okay with that. They could cast Opt here at the end of my turn. Interesting. So they're going for the Path to Exile. Are they going to Path my Elemental? Ah, okay. Sure. That's pretty good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Reveler here for 2. Let's go ahead and play that. Maybe I'm supposed to attack first. Yeah, I was supposed to attack first. Oh, they want to trade. Yeah. Let's do it. Oh, they're going to path their Snapcaster Mage. Interesting. Cool play from the opponent. I didn't think about that. But we know they have Cryptic. Interesting they got a basic Plains there. And we got a Blood Moon. Yeah, so if they play Gideon, we can pop EE. And then just cast any spell at all. We know they have Cryptic Command, so this is a fine time to take that Cryptic Command. And a fine time to clear Gideon. I think I'm going to wait on 1 turn on this Faithless Looting. What's happening here? Did my opponent concede? Yep, looks like my opponent conceded. All right. So that's blue-white control in the books too. So hopefully that made up for kind of my poor play in match 1. Even though I made a few punts. They weren't game-ending, but hopefully this 4th match made up for it for you guys, and you were able to enjoy watching that last 4th match here. with Mardu Pyromancer. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for the closing comments coming up in just a second. I'll see you guys soon. Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the closing comments here with Mardu Pyromancer. We just finished up 4 matches of competitive games and competitive single queue lobbies. Remember, it cost me money to enter these lobbies. So the idea is that even though we're not doing a modern competitive league, we're still getting in competitive testing against competitive players. So sometimes you run into some weird decks, but usually you run into, tier 1, tier 2 decks in modern. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the matchups, right? Round 1, we faced Esper Control, which is a pretty, it can be a pretty rough matchup, right? They play everything that Blue-White Control plays, maybe a couple less Field of Ruins, depending on the build, but they have cards like Esper Charm, they have cards like Fatal Push, that can be a clean answer to Young Pyromancer, whereas Blue-White Control only has Path to Exile. So, Esper Control is pretty good, but I think we have a pretty good matchup there, right? We have Blood Moons just kind of cheese our opponents out, excuse me. Blood Moons to cheese our opponents out. And then we also have, just the hand disruption element, the draw 3 card element off of Bedlam Reveler, the Lingering Souls, the Liliana the Veil. We have this whole package here that's really hard for fair decks to beat. So as you saw, we were able to beat Esper Control 2-0, even through a couple misplays. Not misplays, through kind of misclicks, playing through some of our turns by accident. Even by doing nothing for like 2 turns in a row, our opponent still could not overcome the value of Mardu Pyromancer. Second match, we played against like Kiki-Chord. I think it looked more like Bant-Chord. Maybe it didn't actually have the mana able to produce red for Kiki-Jiki, but outside of like Birds of Paradise and things like that. So it seemed like maybe a more value-oriented build, or maybe a more mid-rangey one with like a combo finish. Either way, we were able to beat that. I believe 2-0. I don't quite remember, but that's just a deck we can outvalue pretty well. We have, if we can strip them of their reasonable threats in the beginning of the game, and then we can take over the board with Young Pyromancer, we just kind of have the inevitability that we'll draw a Reveler eventually, and then just take over in terms of card advantage, killing our opponent's threats. So in that matchup, it was tricky. Scavenging Ooze can be a real pain for this deck, but if you can find a clean answer for it in the form of your 4 main deck answers, Fatal Push, Dreadbore, Terminate, and sometimes even your conditional removal spells like Brutality and Lightning Bolt, it's a good way to make sure they line up again. You can line up your removal spells well against a Scavenging Ooze deck if you know that it might be in your future. Third round, we played against Red-Green Ponza. That deck, look, if you keep greedy hands and you keep low land hands, yeah, then you might be in rough shape, which we saw in Game 2. We were in rough shape. But Game 3, we were able to come back and, stabilize the board against, Thragtusks and, what's the word I'm looking for? The guy that makes clues, Tireless Tracker. And we were able to flood the board with our Pyromancers and Lingering Soul tokens. And then what's important to realize that your opponent could, especially when you're at 1 life, your opponent could have live draws at any point. It's important to play around what you can, but don't play around what you can't. We weren't playing around like Bloodbraid Elf or Inferno Titan or Stormwrath Dragon, but we were playing around what we saw on board and what could potentially come off the opponent's deck in some capacity. So we just swung out, kept a few blockers back, and then kept swinging. And it's a very fast clock if your opponent doesn't respect, your board of tokens. So it's important to remember, be aggressive when you have to be aggressive. This deck really, while we can play the long game, and it's really fun to draw a bunch of cards with Bedlam Reveler, it's really fun to tick up Liliana and alter and things like that. You just shouldn't make those kind of decisions unless you have to. If you can win the game and play safely, then that's the avenue you should take. Don't go for the greedy value plays. Go for the, I don't know if I'm going to have 2 more turns. Let's go ahead and get aggressive. Anyways, and then the 4th match against Blue-White Control, I think that matchup went as it goes. I think if you can strip them of their card advantage and kind of hurt their mana base with Blood Moon, then you have a pretty good matchup. You saw we didn't really develop a clock very quickly against them. And they have things like paths, things like that, but you can play a bit slow if you know their hand and you know that even one good top deck doesn't put you too far back, then you can play it a bit slow and kind of craft your turns to be able to really take advantage of what's going on your opponent's side of the board. And Liliana the Veil was absolutely fantastic in both of the control matchups, both Esper control and blue-white control. So I really, really enjoyed Liliana the Veil. I think she's fantastic, like incredible. And I actually think EE is versatile enough that you bring it in against blue-white control. And again, maybe even one wear and tear. I'm not sure if that's correct. You guys let me know how you sideboard against blue-white control. I'd be very interested to hear what you think you would do with my configuration or your configuration. Yeah, hopefully we can drive some discussion on that. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching the 4 matches here with Mardu Pyromancer. Again, I apologize for the slight punts in the first match, but hopefully I was able to make up for that with the 3 matches after that. And so thankfully I didn't have to filter out any matches this time around, so I didn't, quit any games or run into any jank or anything like that. So this deck actually did just 4-0 in front of your eyes. Now, even though it wasn't a modern competitive league, this is almost like quote unquote an FNM 4-0 if you want to equate it to that, right? Not too much on the line here, but enough on the line that your opponents are reasonably okay players and they're bringing reasonably competitive decks to the table. Anyways, that's all I got for you. Hopefully you enjoy this Mardu Pyromancer series, and stay tuned for more content coming up real soon.